Hello viewers from wherever you're watching us from. You're watching the Gambia's first private TV station and we are broadcasting from our studios here on Kairaba Avenue. My name is Alu Sise and it's now time for your weekly State of Affairs program aired every Tuesday at 9 p.m. and repeated on Sunday at 10 a.m. If you missed any of our episodes, you can visit our YouTube channel at QTV Gambia where you can, of course, watch all our previous episodes of the State of Affairs program. Like I said, we are back for another exciting edition, and this week we are joined by the Gambia's Minister for Foreign Affairs, International Cooperation and Gambians Abroad, a seasoned diplomat, Dr. Mamadou Tangara. He had also served as the Gambia's permanent rep to the United Nations. Dr. Tangara, good to have you in the State of Affairs program.
The pleasure is all mine.
Yeah. Good. Often done not, you talk to diplomats, they talk about foreign policy, Gambia's foreign policy. Could you just tell us, what do you mean by foreign policy?
Well, one of the sovereign domain of a country is its foreign policy. And the Gambia's foreign policy since independence is based on certain principles, which is non-alignment, neutrality, good neighborliness, and respect for the Charter of the African Union and the United Nations. These are the principles that guides our foreign policy. And special emphasis also is put on the respect for human rights, and that's the reason why the Gambia has been chosen as the capital of human rights in Africa, and that's why you have the headquarters of the African Commission.
That's the African Center for Human Rights.
No, the African Commission. The center is different from the Commission of Human Rights, Peoples and Human Rights. And that's also in line with our foreign policy to pursue and defend human rights wherever it's violated. And that's the case of the Rohingya Muslims. And that's why Gambia, on behalf of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, is championing the cause of the Rohingyas.
And like you said, talking about principles, respect for human rights, you cited the Commission and, of course, the issue of the Rohingya case here. But, what are our priorities as far as our foreign policy is concerned?
Our priorities mainly is good neighborliness. Geography dictates its law to diplomacy, because without peace and stability, there is not much you can do. And for you to have that, you have to have good rapport with your neighbors. And we thank God, under the leadership of His Excellency President Adama Barrow and Macky Sall, we've not had any major problem during their time, like border closure or some challenges between the two countries. Whenever we have problems, they will just raise their phone and talk to each other, and the problem is resolved. And that's why you've never heard of a border closure like we used to suffer during the previous regime, and that will result in many challenges, because for many things they have to come through Senegal. Like I remember we had road construction projects. Even to have basalt was a challenge. But thank God, today we enjoy excellent rapport with our neighbor, the only neighbor. But Bissau also is considered to be a neighbor, and having good rapport helped a lot. Just recently, we were able to secure the release of 17 Gambian trucks, and that's also thanks to the brotherhood between our two heads of state. So President Barrow dispatched a special envoy mission that I led with the Minister of Trade and Regional Integration, and we were able to resolve the issue.
And with all these achievements, what is being done to further strengthen that neighborliness that you have with the Senegal? Like you mentioned, the Gambia and Senegal have had close ties since the change of government in 2017, and you cited the case of Guinea-Bissau recently.
Well, we are constantly consulting each other. With Senegal, you've witnessed the last presidential council, which was a milestone in our relationship, and you've seen all the major decisions that have been taken there. So with Guinea-Bissau also, the two presidents consult regularly. You don't wait till you have problems and you go and see your neighbor. So it's always good to entertain this dialogue to dispel all clouds of misunderstanding, because sometimes it's misunderstanding that create problems. And if you do not communicate, you do not exchange, you end up having a lot of misunderstandings, especially in these days of social media where you have a lot of fake news. So it's important to be consulting, to be dialoguing, and to be talking to each other. regular.
I remember interviewing you when, I mean, there was that after the election 2021. I mean, you were one of the key ministers who were maintained by the president, and I interviewed you, and you talk about your plans in terms of reforming and to ensure that you have a more capacitated, I mean, workforce within the ministry and of course in the foreign service. Take us through that reforms.
Well, we are still on it. In fact, we're going to present the cabinet paper has already been sent. Our intention is to reform the foreign service, and that's in line with the thought and vision of the president also. If you look at the foreign service, diplomacy is a very complex area. And to understand the intricacies of diplomacy, you have to work within, because most of our work is done behind closed doors. So you need to take the best and the brightest if you want to achieve results. And that's why we are consulting, and with the support of His Excellency, I think we'll work towards having a professional corps of diplomats. And like it, you have it in many countries. Because even when you are in the civil service, to join the foreign service, in many countries you have to go through an examination. And once you pass that examination, you are trained, you stay in the foreign ministry for a while before you are sent abroad. But today, these are some of the challenges that we are having, but I'm sure with time we'll be able to resolve those problems. Sometimes people are always resistant to change. They are comfortable with the status quo. But if we want to move, we want to leapfrog as a country, there are certain strong decisions, decisive decisions that we have to take in order to move forward.
And talking about, change, it's always a problem. People don't want to see change. But as far as the reforms are concerned, what are the short-term reforms that you are currently leading at the ministry? And of course, if possible, if you could share with us your long-term reforms agenda as well.
Well, I can tell you, when I arrived, one of the first things we did was to review some of the appointments, contract appointments. And they went through PMO, and we realized a lot of anomalies. And then some people were invited to quit based on clear evidence. These are hard decisions, because these are people you are with day in, day out. It's nothing personal. Yeah. We just want to have, to do the right things. So, this is small Gambia. When you have, you ask Aliu to leave, some people will call you. Definitely. But when it's based on facts, I think when you explain it to them, they understand. Now, one of the main challenges to carry out also the reforms is resources. Because foreign diplomacy is also very expensive, and you know that we are grappling with a lot of difficulties. And that's not only Gambia. But if you compare what Gambian diplomats are getting compared to some of their counterparts in the region, you know that we are making huge sacrifice. And that's why I say sometimes, rather than criticizing, we should pay tribute to all these diplomats working outside and doing extraordinary work. I will just give you the example of the UN mission. I was there, and I know what that mission has brought to this country with a very limited staff. And sometimes you have one officer covering different committees, whereas you are supposed to have an expert per committee, but you just multiply yourself to be able to go everywhere. Even myself as ambassadors, I used to go to meeting of experts, which was not normal. And I would say that, well, it's so important that I have to be here. But at some point, the experts, they understand the game, because normally it's only expert. And at the UN, protocol is respected. So there are certain arguments that they cannot have with an ambassador. So when they have their meetings, they will say, for experts only. But these are some of the challenges that we have in terms of human resources, in terms of financial resources. But yet still, rather than lamenting, and I always tell my people that if you don't have the means of your policy, practice the policy of your means. So you use your intelligence to be creative and innovative in order to move forward and find solution to your current predicament. But I want to seize this opportunity to commend our diplomats working hard for this country.
Like you said, I mean, most of the changes in the diplomatic circle, nothing was personal. I mean, you said, you know, you observed there were some anomalies. Could you share with us just what were some of these anomalies?
No, you see, sometimes for me, I find it difficult. Anyway, the PMO is aware, and I don't want to bring to the general public certain things which are not good, even for the, you know, sometimes there are things that are not even good for the reputation of the country, you know. Like some people came with fake papers. What do? You have to let go. In other countries, they should have even been prosecuted.
And you also highlight the issue of funding. I mean, like you said, no doubt, I mean, having all these foreign missions, I mean, requires a lot of money because you have these diplomats outside the country. In terms of the funding, looking at the current budget allocated to the ministry, do you think this is enough to sustain most of the missions that we have across the world?
Well,
in fact, some will even suggest why not we cut down, I mean, or we close some of these missions.
You know, for a diplomat, it's very hard to close a mission. And today I received some ambassadors. He told me that, some of them told me that they made the mistake of closing embassies. But if they have known, they would not have done that, because it's easier to close an embassy than to open one. Of course, the budget, the allocation are not enough. Right? I'll just give you one simple example. With all the challenges that we are facing today with migration, with the back wave, and Gambians trying to go and look for greener pasture. When they are challenged, they go to the embassy, thinking that they have resources to help to repatriate them or even take care of them till maybe their parents send them some money. But you don't have that money in any embassy to be able to take care of. But yet still we use our intelligence to be able to maneuver in order to bring them back. Through our through having good rapport with some of our partners. I give you the example of the UAE. When you overstay in the United Arab Emirates, every day you have to pay a penalty. And when they had that problems with some nationalities, many Gambians were arrested. But we pleaded with them. Not only did they lift the penalties, but they helped repatriating all these Gambians. Over, I think, 35. All those who wanted to come back were repatriated with the support of the United Arab Emirates. So these are things that the general public maybe don't know, but that is done through diplomacy. It's only through our excellent rapport, because sometimes to have the money to bring all of them is a big challenge. In Sudan, when our students were faced with challenges when the war started, thanks to the support of a very good son of the Gambia, Dr. Abu Jang, and I want to seize this opportunity to pay tribute to him and to congratulate him and wish him well for the excellent work that he is doing and for the support he has provided to the students. This young man helped to evacuate all the Gambians, refusing to go with the UN contingent that was there. After evacuating all the Gambians, that's when he left. And that also we were able to do that through some of the support of one of our ambassadors. We were just sitting talking about it. He heard me talking on the phone, and he asked me, how can I, what's the problem, how can I help? And I told him, and he provided that money to take them from Khartoum to Port Sudan. And the Saudi government helped us to take them from Port Sudan to Saudi Arabia and put them in a hotel, and we shared the cost. And they were so comfortable that they even asked to perform Umrah. And the Saudi authorities facilitated that. And when they came back, that was not budgeted for. We gave each of them at least $5,000 to go back to their families, you know, because the way they came, it was difficult and it was not budgeted for. And for them to be repatriated, of course, the Ministry of Finance helped us and paid for their tickets.
I mean, the other thing, I mean, you talk to people outside, I mean, they tend to question, I mean, the caliber of people being deployed in the foreign service. Some people even tend to question their qualifications. I mean, others will say, okay, their appointment is based on politics. Most of them, they have no background when it comes to diplomacy. How do you react to that?
You see, in every country, you have the trained diplomats, you have also the politicians. That's how the world works, you know. And that's why we want to also have these reforms. Not only would you have politicians, but at least there is a minimum requirement that they need to join missions, because if not, you end up finding yourself in an embarrassing situation. But it's normal to have political appointees in the diplomatic service, but the majority should be trained diplomats. See, a cadre of diplomats who will do the work, because as I said, diplomacy can be very petty, and if you do not know the trade, your colleagues can easily know it, you know. So it's important that we blend the trained diplomats with the politicians so that they can also work hand in glove and help them.
So how do you deal with those non-trained diplomats? Do you organize an orientation before they leave the country, or they are trained on the job?
No, we organize a series of orientation, but it's not enough. Okay. And they learn on the job. Okay. Yeah, sometimes with challenges, but some of them are fast learners, I must say, and some of them, I can say, work even harder and better than some of the trained diplomats, because it takes also a lot of commitment to do the job. Okay. You know, you can be trained in any area, but if you do not have that commitment to serve, you will not deliver. You know, and that's not specific to diplomats. In all the areas, you have people who are well trained, but they don't have the zeal to work.
I mean, last month or 2 months ago, the president announced that he has, you know, put a stop to all international travels. I mean, something that many welcomed. I mean, we know Gambia is not an island. We belong to a global community. How much does this affect, I mean, our participation in terms of global events? I mean,
what if you've read
some people are saying, okay, the travels are too much. Others will say, but the Gambia is part of a not bigger global communities, a regional community, so we must be there.
Yeah, if you have read carefully the press release, statutory meetings are not affected.
Yeah,
yeah, and sometimes people don't know.
Events paid for by the organizers.
Yeah, yeah, and sometimes people don't understand that in these travels. I just give you an example. We went to Argentina, and when we were going, I asked to go with the director of internal audit for him to see. And during that trip, what we got was over almost $2 million. Wow. That's far more than what we've spent. And he said, but you have to make publicity about what you're doing. But it's not that you have to go to the media every time and say, I've done X, Y.
But it's good. It's good for the public to know, Honorable Minister, when you made this sort of achievement. It's good that the public knows, because at the end of the day, they're going to judge you based on, okay, the minister is traveling, but what you bring it back home, if the public is not knowing it, then there's a problem. I think he was right in that case. That at least
it's not that all the travels you will bring something, but in a relationship you invest. You don't go to people only when you need them. That's why when the day you need them, they can come to your aid. Because if you go only when you need them, the relationship is based on interest. You know, many things that are happening in this country came through the foreign ministry. We do not implement any project, but any project, almost all the projects you are seeing here are coming through the foreign ministry. Like now, the building where we are, it came through out of a grant. The roads that are being constructed, it's because of our foreign policy orientation that we were able to get them. It's not that because Gambia is the smiling coast that they are giving out things. It's our position in the international arena that will command that respect for people to support us.
But what does it take to be able to, convince, bigger countries to invest in a country? Like I said, U.S. is a diplomat. You've been in this state for as long as many will remember. What does it take to be that good diplomat, to be able to negotiate?
Well, I don't think there is a secret recipe.
Okay.
Yeah. It's to be able to sell your country. And when you love your country, you can sell it. So then the potential that we have, I think one of the things that we have here in the Gambia and we enjoy and we take it for granted is the peace and stability, the freedom of speech. Many people will tell you Gambia is a country where you can come and work any time of the night and you can work freely. Now, what we need to have is to have a very conducive environment that will protect investment. That's why when we just recently, the trade minister brought to cabinet the protection of investment. Between the Gambia and the United Arab Emirates. And I think soon the Minister of Finance will bring the avoidance of double taxation. Because there are conditions, sine qua non condition, that if they are not in place, no one would invest. You know, because at least you have the peace and stability, but you have to have the legal framework also that will protect the business. And government is working very hard on that.
Earlier on, you mentioned about the issue of non-alignment. I mean, we've seen, I mean, there's so many turmoil around the world. We're having the Russia-Ukraine war. I mean, we've seen what's happening in Israel, Palestine. I mean, what is the stand of the Gambia in this crisis? For example, the Russia-Ukraine war.
Well, we are neutral in these conflicts, right, but our position is known. If you follow the patterns of voting, you will know the position of the Gambia. We condemn the invasion of Ukraine. That's based on principle. It's not that we have anything against Russia, because our principle is to be friends with all and enemy with none. So that, in fact, for us, we advocate, we call for dialogue, because we believe that dialogue is the most powerful weapon. So taking side when brothers are fighting will not resolve the problem. Try to bring them together. I'll just give you another example. When you had the crisis in the Gulf, we refused to take side because we say when brothers fight, we bring them together. And those who took side then, today found themselves, they are finding themselves in very funny position because the brothers are together. So where are you going to find yourself? So with time, we've been vindicated that we have to try our best to bring them together because it's a fight between brothers. And
the issue of Cuba? We've seen you issued a statement.
Yeah, regarding
the attack on his embassy in the US.
Of course, that is something to be condemned, and we did it. And we, during the UN General Assembly also, we called for the blockade imposed on Cuba. I was in Cuba recently. Also during the G77 plus China meeting, we reiterated that call for the blockade to be lifted. It's unjustified.
And like I said, I mean, we have seen most of these global powers are all running to Africa. I mean, we've seen China, Russia, I mean, the US. How does the Gambia handle this, having all these powers? Of course, Turkey as well. They are all, building interest on Africa.
Well, it's a good thing. Now, the onus is on African to know how to separate the wheat from the chaff and to put their interests first. Because when countries come to you, they don't come to you, as I say, because you are the smiling coast, because you are nice. They come into for their interests. So it's up to you to preserve and protect your interests and make sure that the relationship is a win-win situation.
And I'm talking about the win-win situation. How is it a win-win situation here, for example, between the Gambia and US, and of course, Gambia and China?
Well, you see,
what does the Gambia bring to the table? I mean, we've seen in the past, China has, given the Gambia so many projects, grants, for example. You've seen what happened in Basse, as the URR roads and bridges, the OIC. The US is also contributing a lot to the Gambia through the US aid. What is the Gambia bringing to the table?
Well, that's where diplomacy is important. Okay. In the multilateral arena, we give them a lot of support, our voice. And that's why I always say that our voice is one of the most valuable things we have. And that's why we should not compromise on certain things. No amount of money will make us change our position. Our positions are based on principle. And if our friends and partners like us based on that, they support our development process. Because everybody is aware of the fact that the world is a global village. And you cannot, in Malaysia they say, help thy neighbor to prosper. Yeah. It's very important that you help others to develop, because when we are faced with challenges, like today, many years ago, Abdou Diouf was saying that if nothing is done to help these young people to stay in Africa. There is no law or wall that will stop the wave that is going to storm Europe. And we found ourselves today in that situation. If opportunities were created for our young ones, you think that they will try to go to the back way to Europe and kill themselves? So the world, it's a global village. We are interrelated, interconnected. So it's a responsibility of, we have a duty of supporting each other. And that's why the SDGC said, leave no one behind.
And that is something that we will really elaborate more, the issue of the deportation and the role of the diaspora in the country. I just want to touch on the issue of the instability within the sub-region. I mean, schools in Guinea-Conakry, I mean, Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger. I mean, what role do you think diplomacy could play in resolving all these crises and perhaps bring an end to military takeover within the sub-region?
Well, it's a worrisome situation. Diplomacy is doing, through diplomacy we are trying to find a solution to the problems. Unfortunately, I will just give the example of Niger. People will talk about the military intervention, but that's the last option. You use all the diplomatic channels, all the diplomatic means to resolve the problem. That's our objective, because there is no winner in a war. A military intervention is not a solution. It's not the ideal solution. And through diplomacy, we try to engage all of them to be able to come to be reasonable enough to hand over to the civilian, because power must come from the people. If we continue to allow that, so any group, if you are, we are going to a state of the Leviathan, you know the Leviathan, where the most powerful, the strongest will come and dominate others, where man becomes wolf for man. So I think there are a lot of education, sensitization that we need to make for people to understand the importance of democracy, that power must come from the people. And once you are also elected, to make sure that you deliver on your promises. Mm-hmm. It's very difficult though in our countries, because when you know that resources are very scarce and you are faced with challenges, and sometimes you are dependent on partners. You see, Gambia was the baby of the international community. After the peaceful transition, we organized a big donor conference. People came, made big pledges, but I can tell you, we've not even received half of those pledges. And you know, that also put it in a very bad light, because the population would think that you've received the money and you are embezzling it. Yeah, but the reality,
that's the Brussels.
Yeah. But the reality is that you've not seen it, the money. And that's why the former president of Ghana, John Atta Mills of blessed memory, was saying that they are talking about donor fatigue. We are talking about pledges fatigue, because people will come and make big pledges and you do never see the color of the money. So partners are not making it also easy for us. Today, I think Gambia is a country that needs to be supported, because we are a beacon of democracy. The rule of law is respected, and but the partners are saying now Gambia is safe. We send back your people. But do you have the facilities to reintegrate those people? When these people are going, these are young, ambitious, strong men and women. They were not criminals. But a lot of them came back with a lot of traumas.
Interesting. We will continue after the commercial break. Well, viewers, you're watching QTV. This is your weekly State of Affairs program. I'm your host, Ali Osise. And my guest this week is Dr. Mamadou Tangara, the Gambia's Minister for Foreign Affairs, International Cooperation, and Gambians Abroad. I mean, we are looking at the Gambia's foreign policy, I mean, our role in the international community. And when we come back, we'll discuss further about diaspora, the deportation, and of course, the Gambia is eyeing for the Secretary General role of the Commonwealth. This and many others after the break. Do stay tuned.
Technology has always been at the forefront of our lives, and the way we use it has evolved drastically over the years. With the advent of 5G internet, we are entering a new era of technological innovation that promises to transform the way we live, work, and play. 5G internet is capable of providing data speeds up to 100 times faster than 4G, making it the ideal solution for streaming high-quality videos, playing online games, and downloading large files on the go. 5G internet is already transforming cities across the globe, powering smart cities, self-driving cars, and virtual reality experiences that were once thought impossible. 5G internet is also paving the way for Internet of Things, allowing for seamless connectivity between devices and the creation of a truly connected world. For the first time in the Gambia, QCell is bringing tomorrow's technology to you today with the launch of QCell 5G Internet. Get ready to experience the out-of-this-world wonders of QCell's 5G Internet. For more information, call 111. QCell. We innovate, others follow.
Viewers, welcome back from that short break. You're watching QTV, the Gambia's first private TV station, and we're broadcasting from our studios here on Kairaba Avenue. My name is Ali Sise. Our guest this week is Dr. Mamadou Tangara, the Gambia's Minister for Foreign Affairs, International Corporations, and Gambians abroad. A seasoned diplomat. He has served as a minister under Jammeh, and of course later moved to the UN as the Gambia's rep at UN, and then came back to serve again as the Minister of Foreign Affairs. That shows how much he understands this field. I mean, Honorable Minister, once again, welcome back from that break. I mean, let's now move into the diaspora. I mean, we have so many Gambians who live outside the country. I mean, they're contributing hugely to the socio-economic development of this country. How much do you engage them?
You see, I've always been saying that I'm going even beyond Gambia. Yeah. That much talked about African Renaissance cannot happen without the diaspora, because the diaspora have the know-how, the resources, and after spending many years outside, when they come back, they come as different people committed to developing their land. Because we understand, after spending so we've all been part of the diaspora at a certain moment, that there is nothing like home. As the Spanish will say, "Hogar dulce hogar," home sweet home. Yeah. And when you travel, there is a Spanish thinker who said that viajar es una manera de hacernos sabios sin saberlo.
You know, he's linguistic. He speaks French, English, and Spanish.
When you travel, you become knowledgeable without realizing it. Okay. So I think the diaspora can play and is playing a key role in the development of the continent. If you see countries like the Republic of Korea, you know, in the 60s, they were at the same level with Ghana, not to mention them. And some African countries were ahead of them. But thanks to their diaspora and their strong policies, they've been able to leapfrog. And today, if you see the gap separating them with those countries, you ask yourself, why are we here? And I sincerely believe that underdevelopment is not a fatality, it's man-made. You take the example of countries like Singapore. We were independent the same year. We joined the UN on the 21st of September 1965. When they had independence, Lee Kuan Yew was crying, saying that they were not ready. We were dancing happy, but look at where they are today and where we are. So there are fundamental questions that needs answers.
And what are these fundamental questions? Because you're making comparisons Singapore and the Gambia. Yeah. What are those fundamental questions that needs to be answered?
These are policy orientation, where you have to put more emphasis on building a human resource base. The most valuable resource we have is our human resources. Those countries that have the resources that we have in terms of raw materials and others. We have raw materials. We have young, dynamic people. But if you look at also the trajectory of those countries, science and technology played a key role in their development process. But culture occupies a pride of place, because they see themselves through their own eyes. They are not trying to copy a model from outside. They devise their own models of development. And I think this is another conversation that we can have another time. But we appreciate the role of the diaspora. And as I said, the diaspora has a key role to play in helping Africa get out of this vicious circle.
And talking about the role of the diaspora, I mean, because of that, I mean, so many young people have left this country in search of greener pasture. I mean, using the Mediterranean Sea. I mean, thousands have lost their lives. I mean, not only in the Gambia, but across Africa. I mean, The issue of deportation as well has often come up in public discourse. I mean, could you just share with us, I mean, what is the stance of the Gambia as far as deportation is concerned? We've had several reports, I mean, people making their own claims that the Gambia has signed a deal with Germany, Gambia has signed a deal with the EU, and all those things. I mean, as the Minister of Foreign Affairs, what more can you tell us about this?
Well, I would just invite those people making those claims to bring the signed document of the deals to deport our people. You see, the good practice document, for example, that they are referring to is to organize in a dignified and orderly manner the repatriation of Gambians that have exhausted all legal appeals. And as a country, we have a responsibility to take back our citizens. If it is proven that you are a Gambian, that you have violated the laws of a country, we cannot render you stateless. Are you not deporting people from Gambia? We to arrest people who have not paid their alien cards and we deport them. It's basically the same thing. I know it's painful. Many people will invest a lot of money, send their children. Some will take a lot of risk to go to Europe. And at the end of the day, they are deported. But would you say that you will not accept your people? There are other people who are in a situation where they themselves ask to be deported to the Gambia. The ones in Niger today, even today we got call from Gambians stranded in Mali, calling for government to help them to come back. Yeah. Because for them, you know, these are all the people who are trying to go to Europe through the back way. And our honorary consul, who, by the way, paying tribute to him, we are not paying him a penny, he spent a lot of money to help Gambians. And he's telling me, tell your people that this is a country at war. You're trying to go to Europe through Mali. You know, but you know, sometimes when you are young, you have a lot of ambition, a lot of crazy ideas, but we're calling our young people to be more reasonable. You've seen the case of the youth from Gunjul, 35, who up to today, more than a year, we don't know their whereabouts. But I think for us, we have to have a serious conversation about migration. And of course, deportation would come during the conversation, and people will understand the complexity of the problem. And a serious conversation, not only with government, but stakeholders, media, and even the partners. Because the partners also, the way they're treating the issue, for me, is not the right way to treat it, because they are looking at it from a security perspective. And deporting people is not a solution. These people know how to go to Europe. They will find a way to go back. I think the best thing is to create opportunities for people at home to stay and work here and earn a decent life. And also engage in a serious sensitization campaign, talking to the religious leaders, the traditional leaders. And even some of the returnees can help. You know, some of our young ones on their road to Europe, they found themselves in a situation where they end up drinking their own urine. And these are things that we need to tell people. We are only looking at the ones that are successful, but how many have lost their lives on the way to Europe? And the roads of Europe are not paved with gold. If you go, when I visit Europe also, those who are there are always complaining. You don't have papers, you have challenges, the government has to do this. No. We do not have unlimited resources. And as Minister of Gambians abroad, sometimes I get very strange requests. Even some who are stranded will ask me to pay for them to go back after they go. We don't have that resource.
So what is that the government can do about the issue of the deportation? Anything the government could do?
Well, there is not much.
Also do?
Well,
to address.
we are engaging partners is to help us regularize, and today Germany is doing that. Okay. Those who have not committed any crime for a certain period, they invite them. I received recently the newly appointed German ambassador here to apply to have legal residence. But if you have violated their laws, even here, if you violate the law, you face the full force of the law. And we engage the Spanish authorities on the issue of having some agreement on seasonal migration. In fact, the proposal even came from them. But today you see with Spain, with the political instability, they are going through an electoral process. We've not been able to move the way we wanted. And we are engaging countries like Italy on that. Because I told them most of these young people don't even want to stay. They want to go and make some money and come back, you know. But thinking that by closing the borders, in fact, you cannot close it. But we must accept that also Europe is overwhelmed. If you go to Lampedusa, in one day you have 6,000.
Especially recently.
Yeah, that's even more than the population of the city. And today you have the rise of right extremists in Europe. So you see the same pressure that we are having here for us to, we cannot refuse our own people to come back. In Europe, the politicians are facing huge pressure from the electorates to remove those who are in illegal, who are not legal residents. And unfortunately, some will use that to use our brothers and sisters as the scapegoats responsible for their problems, which is also not true.
So are you saying those blaming the government are not really fair?
They are not fair. How can, I mean, if they establish that you are a Gambian, and today, you know, one mistake that our people are doing, in the past you go, you throw your passport, you think they will not be able to identify you. After this interview, I will show you copies of passports that they've recovered. They will send it to the embassy. Now, if you send me the passport of Alucise is in detention. It's proven that he's Gambian. Can you claim that you are not Gambian? And today, in this era of digital age, when you go there, take your fingerprints, you cannot deny it's not you. And some of our partners also think that with the sanction, because today, you know, what people must understand, because of our refusal to accept deportees, Gambia is under sanction. We've been singled out. Yeah. Even as government officials, if you apply for a visa, it will take 45 days. And the visa used to be free for diplomatic passport holders, you will pay. And instead of giving you like 1 week, 1 month, sometimes they used to give even 2 years. Now they give you just like 4 ministers have been invited and they are giving them 4 days. But the population do not understand that, saying that, well, government receive money from European Union to sign deportation. It's not like that. Our bone of contention was that we refuse to take all these people because they have to prove to us that they are Gambians. Because, you know, many people also claim that they were Gambians, and they were not. Because then, by saying that you are Gambian, that you are fleeing from dictatorship, you can get asylum. That's not the case anymore.
Yeah.
They have to understand that too. In fact, some countries came to us, a country, not to mention it, proposing to us to accept some of the asylum seekers in Europe to come and settle in the Gambia till they process their papers. That's a credit to the government because of the democracy and rule of law. I say we don't want that kind of credit. Because if you do that, now they say, well, these are people are validating our speculation by accepting asylum seekers from other countries to come and wait in the Gambia. Already we are grappling with our own problem. You think?
And we have seen even the UK.
We are going to bring other people here.
And even the UK trying to send some, you know, asylum seekers to Rwanda. But aside from that, I mean, like you said, I mean, you cannot afford to see your countrymen and women, Gambians in this case, left stateless. I mean, any idea the number of Gambians perhaps in the European countries, we wouldn't say just Germany, but Italy as well, I mean, who are under the threat of being deported to the country?
Well, I don't have the exact figure. I don't want to speculate, but they are in the thousands. But right now, not all of them are planning to deport them, because Europe also, you know, is faced with an aging population. Yeah. So, but if you go into Europe also, you don't have skills, and you engage in things that are illegal. Of course, if they arrest you, even in the Gambia, we have to be reasonable. Even in the Gambia, if you do things, you are a foreigner, you do things that are illegal. If we arrest you, put you in jail, and then we deport you. So why would you think that they will make exception for us if you go to other countries and we do not respect their laws?
And we have seen several projects comes in the name of supporting returnees. I mean, how much is your ministry involved in terms of having that impact on these returnees? I mean, you talk to some people, they are saying most of these projects, they have little impact on these people.
Well, we are not involved in those projects. And I was saying, even today, I met some ambassadors that projects for them to, well, they are saying they are successful. Yeah, but I say successful to which extent? Because I have not seen it. And that all boils down to the fact that the partners fail to understand the realities on the ground. The top-down approach, that is what has to stop. Because you cannot know my problems more than myself. But I think there are ready-made solutions you come. And if people don't own the process, it's not sustainable. If you devise it from the beginning with the people concerned and everything, you train how many people in, I don't know, in computer sciences, but after, what comes next? So you cannot sit elsewhere and think that you know the problems of Gambians more than Gambians. You have to come and sit with them. We discuss it, we find solutions together. There is a sense of ownership, and that will create the sustainability of the project. That's why many projects will come, go and die.
But I mean, do you have any plan to further engage, I mean, these development partners to ensure that some of these projects, they'll go through the right channel to have the impact that is desired?
We are doing that, but mainly I will, like for example, for European Union projects, the main interlocutor is the Ministry of Finance, where you have the National Authorizing Office. They have to sit during the programming exercise to look at priority projects. But the question is, how much would they listen to them? Because they also, the European Union, those who are on the ground, receive orders from elsewhere.
And let's now move away from the issue of the deportation, and we look at something which is quite progressive. I mean, it has been reported that you, the minister, foreign minister, want to succeed the Honorable Patricia Scotland, Casey, as the next Secretary General of the Commonwealth when she steps down.
Well,
how far have you gone with that intention?
I have the honor of being approached to put up my candidacy for the position of Secretary General of the Commonwealth. But let me make this very clear. Okay. For me, it's not an individual thing.
It's the Gambian.
No, it's African.
Africa, okay.
Because it's the position of Africa.
Okay.
And one of the most important thing for me is for Africa to go with a consensus candidate, not divided. Okay. Because we've seen that in the past. Continent going and they are divided.
They are divided.
And once you are divided, you see then others sneaking in through the cracks, and that will weaken your position. So as we speak, we have several candidates, but at some point we have what we call the candidature committee at the level of the African Union. We will sit and they will evaluate all the applications, and I hope the one who emerge will be supported by others. If there is other person more qualified than me, I'm ready to support that person, and I hope the same goes with the other candidates. But for me, the most important thing is for Africa to go united.
If you succeed, you will be the second African to hold this post. I mean, coming from, others will say, a small country, but I mean, that doesn't matter in this case. I mean, you must be very proud as a Gambian that you are part of those who are, you know, looking forward to succeeding Honorable Patricia.
I think even for the country, that's why I say it goes beyond me. During the recently concluded UN General Assembly, we have seen many countries, members of the Commonwealth, asking to have formal diplomatic ties with us. So even that alone, it's a big achievement, and it's a great honor to be chosen among your peers to run for such a prestigious position. But I will repeat it again, I don't want Africa to go divided for the position of Secretary General of the Commonwealth. We have to have one consensus candidate.
And how is the lobbying going on? I mean, I know it requires a lot of, lobbying here and there. I mean, she's in diplomat. I mean, this is your area. I mean, any progress?
We are campaigning.
Any assurance?
We are campaigning. I know other candidates have more resources, but as I said, when you don't have the means of your policy, you practice the policy of your means. We are trying to use our network to run a campaign where we'll spend, if not nothing, but little money. Yeah. We don't want to be a burden to the taxpayers.
And now let's look at the Commonwealth itself. I mean, under Jammeh, Gambia opted to, leave the Commonwealth. I mean, he published books where he tried to cite the reasons why the Gambia should leave the Commonwealth, describing the Commonwealth as a neo-colonialism. But we return back to the body after the change of government. How important is it to be for the Gambia to be part of the Commonwealth? Being a member of the Commonwealth, what does it benefit us?
You see, in this world today, the more friends you have, the better for you. And if you know how the Commonwealth works, it's completely different from many organizations. Where I attended meetings where a particular country would dictate. That's not the case in the Commonwealth. I attended a particular meeting of the Commonwealth where we decided that the UK will not take the floor because only ministers will take the floor, and the UK minister was not in the hall. And we did not give the floor to the UK because only ministers were supposed to speak. The Commonwealth is an organization where we all have a voice and we listen to each other. There is no one imposing on anyone else. If you see the last CHOGM, it was clear that some big powers wanted Baroness Scotland out. But we put up a resistance, and at the end, she got a second term. We voted, and there was no imposition, and everybody is free to express him or herself. So that's the beauty of the Commonwealth.
And what has the Gambia benefited? I mean, because someone watching will be saying, but tell us, what has the Gambia been able to benefit from the Commonwealth?
Well, you know how many Gambians have been trained through Commonwealth scholarships? Yeah. And how many projects we benefited through the Commonwealth in terms of training. I was telling you, the most valuable resource we have is our human resources. And in difficult days, though we were not paying our subscription, the Commonwealth was on the side of the Gambia. When the Gambia needed more the support of the international community, if we did not have the support of all these organizations, though we were not members of the Commonwealth, but they all added their voice to that of the Gambian people to make sure that the verdict of the people stands.
So it was wrong for the Gambia to leave the Commonwealth under Jammeh?
Well, for me, it's wrong to leave any organization where we are members. I'm telling you, it's better to have friends than to create enemies for yourself, where you don't even need it. And the Commonwealth is a wonderful platform where we campaign to get some of our prestigious sons and daughters of this country. I will name a few, like Fatou Bensouda, for her to become prosecutor of the ICC. We enjoy tremendous support from the Commonwealth. And
she currently serves as our ambassador in the UK.
Yeah.
I mean, recently I saw her in Finland meeting Gambians there. But moving forward, I mean, where do you foresee the Commonwealth in the next 5 years or 10 years?
Well, the Commonwealth is opening up to even non-Commonwealth, non-Anglophone countries. Today you have the Togolese Republic as member, Gabonese Republic as member, most of these Arab countries as member. It's a huge platform, a big network where you sit and where understanding is promoted, where emphasis is put more on things that will bind us together than things that will divide us.
And what are some of the reforms that you would suggest? For example, if you succeed as a Secretary General, I mean, what are some of the reforms that you think should be made as far as the Commonwealth is concerned?
For me, I believe in changes in continuity. Okay. I'm not the disciple of the master philosopher who will come and destroy everything. Okay. In our organization, you go, there are gains. You consolidate the gains and you build on those gains. Of course, you put your personal touch also, because if you occupy such prestigious position, it's not for only the privileges, but you want to leave a legacy behind. And that you cannot do by doing things as usual. You bring your personal touch that you think will improve the life of the organization. I
mean, you talk to some people, they will be like, I mean, most of these African countries, I mean, they are least considered, I mean, that's their opinion, not my words, I mean, but opinions of some people. They cite, for example, the UNGA, I mean, often than not, I mean, when African leaders are to address, I mean, the summit, we often see empty chairs and all those things. I mean, it is only the big wigs, I mean, like US and other countries, that you will see the UN hall full to capacity. What does this tell as far as the UN is concerned? And of course, even the issue of the UN Security Council, people are saying it is high time that, you know what, Africa get a permanent seat, well, which is now
our position, the African position is clear on that. Yeah. There is already consensus at the declaration of state, because we know that the Security Council as it is these days does not reflect the reality of the 21st century. We all agree on that. On addressing empty chairs, I think people who are saying that have not been to the UN. Okay. The UNGA, the general debate, we all know that the first day is full to capacity, especially when the host country is speaking. After that, it's not full to capacity like that day, the day that the host country is speaking the opening, but the chairs are not empty. Because what people fail to realize also, the UNGA is not only about the general debate. During the general debate, we have several bilaterals. And when you have your bilaterals, you go to those bilaterals. And that's why, but you always make sure that you have people occupying the seats. The most important thing during that period is the bilaterals that you are having. In a day, you will have some of my team members are here. You can consult them. You can have up to 10 bilaterals during the day.
I'm being told time is up, but finally, Honorable Minister, I mean, what legacy would you like to leave behind at the Minister of Foreign Affairs as Minister?
To leave a reformed foreign service with professional diplomats occupying key positions, to make sure that the best and the brightest are recruited into the foreign service.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister Dr. Mamadou Tangara, who is the Gambia's Minister for Foreign Affairs, International Cooperation and Gambians Abroad. He was our guest this week on the State of Affairs. Once again, Mr. Honorable Minister, thank you so much for coming on the program. It's never easy to get him for such an interview, because he's always busy traveling in and out, all in serving our country. Well, viewers, with that, we bring an end to this week's edition of the State of Affairs program. Do join us next week. Until then, bye-bye from me and the entire team. Bye.